Keswick Apartments, Great Infestations. Disclaimer: this book is a work of satire, created to entertain, provoke thought, and explore the complexities of human experience through humor, irony, and exaggeration, while it draws upon emotional truth, the authentic feelings, struggles, and insights that resonate with real life. It is not based on factual events, individuals, or specific situations. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or to real occurrences is purely coincidental and not intended by the author. The characters, settings, and scenarios are fictional creations designed to critique, reflect, or amplify aspects of society and human nature. This book should not be read as a literal account of any person's life or any particular event. Instead, it invites readers to engage with the emotional undercurrent and social commentary woven into its narrative. By reading this book, you acknowledge that it is a work of fiction meant to be interpreted as satire and not as a factual representation of reality. The author and publisher accept no responsibility for any misinterpretation of the content as factual or for any actions taken as a result of such misinterpretation. Keswick warning: the prelude. The world is a place of vicious exploitation, which we all accept as normal, eyes wide as blind, skies dark and enriched with curses, black as Mordor, above Keswick Apartments, buried deep within Spotsylvania, Virginia. A shadowed pit where dreams sink into silence. A warning for some, but few heed the call. Do not apply to live here, give them no business at all, for they had a choice not to exploit their tenants. Inflation no excuse. For rent hikes higher than the streets of D.C. on April 20th, there is no excuse because this isn't D.C. No Metro Pass comes with the lease, but honesty and truth don't mean much to the fiat slavers, James Doran Company, the whole bunch, their hands stained with the weight of every dollar squeezed. For if you move here amidst the lies in your face, you might like it at first until the roaches eat you alive. For in darkness they wait, like the hearts of James Doran Company, hard as the walls that echo with neglect. Do not tread lightly into the parking lot, for danger reeks in pests that crawl in the night, and A-tow trucks that wait around every corner, stalking like vultures in a false paradise where roaches rule from the shadows, and the air chokes on the stench of broken trust. Yet amidst this rot, a spark persists, a call to turn, to fight, to break their chains, for even in this abyss the will to defy can rise. The move-in. Cardboard boxes, taped and labeled, scattered across the bare floor. Leo and Angela, hand in hand, step into their new beginning, in its hopeful blessing, bathed in the light of a new chapter. The light of the morning spills through the blinds. They'll sleep on the floor, watch the stars on the ceiling, glowing softly in the dimness. Count the ones in their eyes, dreams mirrored in tender gazes. Their little one playing with boxes, giggling amid the chaos, infatuated with simple bright things in life, like sunlight on the walls. Imagine a world where opportunity exists, a horizon of promise to escape from a system of broken nerves, frayed by past burdens that now only can feel pain. A relentless shadow lingering. Leo spots a single roach in the corner of the room, skittering in gloom. It's just a single one. There can't be more, he assures himself quietly. But I should tell the office about this unease creeping in. They definitely need to know. A murmur of doubt takes root. For music plays in the background of life, a soft hum of normalcy, and they dance as a family to its rhythm, swaying in unity, expecting a second child, hearts swelling with fragile joy. All hopes come out to the forefront of unhinged minds, wild and free. A knock on the door. Leave before it is too late. A voice cuts sharp. So we've got crazy neighbors and there's nothing we can do. They sigh, but in the distance the roach escaped. Through the drywall, a silent flea thinking, If those fools only knew, if they only knew. A sinister whisper. Boxes unpacked like their open hearts, laid bare with care. Surgery to undergo on the floor of their ocean souls. A deep mending, a spirit to never give up on the future, rising through the cracks. To listen for tomorrow's tone, a faint but steady call, and make every home a home, forged in love and defiance, confronting management. So Leo strode into the property management office, his boots echoing on the chipped linoleum floor, and had some questions to ask. But as soon as he walked in the door, was met with smiling faces, stretched tight as drumskins. Tweedledee and Tweedledummer spewed out promises before he could mention a single word about the roach, their voices a syrupy hum. We're adding a gym to the basement of every building, sweat-soaked dreams beneath flickering bulbs, 24/7 maintenance, always a wrench at the ready, and a pool for all residents, glinting like a false oasis. Security cameras coming next month, unblinking eyes on every corner, and all new renovations, plaster over the cracks of despair. Just you wait. We're so glad you signed these papers. It's all under construction, a blueprint of promises. You'll love it here, if you can handle it. Don't mind the roaches, skittering shadows in the night. They're a feature, not a bug. You can't avoid them. In fact, it's probably your fault that they're here. A blame pinned like a badge. Now get used to it and go back to your unit. And don't forget to pay the first of every month, for we'd hate to have complications. No one gets a free lunch, not in this crumbling kingdom. And just as the words were spoken, the lights began to flicker, a Morse code of unease, warnings from the spirits before that had lived here not long ago, their sighs woven into the walls. And they walked back to their apartment, feet dragging through the stale, heavy air. But as they got in the elevator, it moved at first, a hopeful hum before the cables groaned. But then Leo and Angela realized, oh fuck, we're stuck. So they spent that night in darkness with their little one, clutching them in the faint emergency glow, waiting for no help to come. The silence, a weight pressing down. The party. And so, within the confines of their unit's peeling walls, they hosted a party, the air thick with the blare of rock bands. Like Papa Roach pounding from their speakers, a relentless pulse. They invited the whole apartment floor to the party, but only a few of them showed up, shadows on the frayed welcome mat. A single mom who seemed nervous about being here, her eyes darting like a trapped bird, didn't speak English that well, her words faltering in the din. A biker roared into the room, his engine's growl echoing off the walls, parked his bike in the kitchen, its chrome glinting amidst the clutter of spilled cans and grease. The music picked up and everyone was having a wild time, a frenzy of laughter and stomping feet, while the ghosts, in the darkness of residence long ago watched from corners, their spectral faces taut, sat in disdain, unable to warn like. A Lazarus spell of magic cast upon all who lived inside these walls. A curse humming beneath the plaster. Lights flickered like strobe lights, casting jagged shadows, a silent chant. Enjoy it while it lasts. There was a laugh in the darkness, sharp as a blade, and no one knew who it was, a riddle wrapped in the haze, because it was really the roach who was listening all alone, sipping a beer in the back of the room, its antennae twitching. Drunker than Bourbon Street, swaying to its own mad tune, laughing all the way to the bank, a cackle of hollow triumph, broker than the debt ceiling, yet rich with bitter mirth. Silently the roaches crawled above the ceiling, silent but deadly creatures, their legs a whisper of menace, plotting their next move or led by a sinister force. A skittering army in the dark, a party won't stop, Not until the eviction notice is posted silently just under the door. A white slip of doom gliding across the floor. For James Doran Company is the little hungry whore of the US dollar, insatiable, its claws sunk deep, and its unending proof of war scars the leases, the lives, ghosts welcoming them to their dark abode, their whispers a cold embrace, a promise of shadows to come. The Roach after party. Yo, it's your boy Roach King. We in the kitchen. Scurry squad hit the grease groove. This roach got a kite and she gon' skitter all night. Wow, wow, wow. Antenna bounce while you scurry. Go ahead and raid that pantry. Work. Roach, you rockin' that exoskeleton. Yeah, you bad in the trash bash mad. To the crevice, to the wall, till the frass fling at the roach ball. Management ain't ready for this crumb-fest jelly. Get it greasy, get it grimy. Keep the sewer soiree tight. Skitter to skip. Shake it in the grease groove floor. She got a shell, she got a shell. Scurry it in the night crawl. How low can you crawl? Can you dodge that light flick low? We the Scurry Squad, it's a crumb-fest spree. Palp poppin' loud in the grease groove, see? Light flick flick, but we don't retreat. Roach Nation risin', we own this beat. You want to see some skitter? Management, drop them crumbs, no trap cash. Bounce that chitin on the tile, scurry back to the wall, run riot. My antenna don't twitch none unless you got crumbs, hun, in this crumb fest. Crumbs a make 'em scurry, crumbs a make the Scurry Squad dance. Frass, 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 frass at the trash bash wake. I don't skitter now. I make bait trap dodges with the roach crew. Scurry, 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 scurry with the chitin click, stir. I'm a roach, greasy, stealthy, Scurry Squad savage. Fling it on the tile, we about to cockroach conga on the floor. 8 now roaches, if you know you slick, no need for sprays. Got you own crumbs, quick. Raise them antennae, rave in the kitchen. Management's cool party. We the Scurry Squad, it's a crumb fest spree. Light flick flick, but we don't retreat. Roach Nation risin', we own this beat. Wow, wow, wow. Birth of Belle. On the day of our second daughter's birth, the air buzzed with a restless hum. We were anxious, as if our world would change, and it did, beneath the cold gleam of hospital lights, to welcome Belle with open and guiding arms into a world that would not always be safe. I looked into her eyes as she cried and handed her, tiny lungs wailing against the sterile silence, to her mother, face to face for the first time, a fragile bond sealed in sweat and tears. The struggle, the anxiety, to bring her to this moment, an eternal fight to be a guide and a hope for my little ones whose future might not always be bright. Angela struggled for the first few weeks, her body a map of love's raw sacrifice. Being cut open was love. An emergency C-section, a wounding for what matters, a future to hold, to guard, and to protect. Her strength a quiet fire in the dim recovery room. We took Belle home and looked her in the eyes. Our new baby greeted with joy, her gaze a spark in our shadowed haven. Through all the pain, the sleepless nights and cries, a tender dawn breaking the endless dark. Meanwhile, even though we never knew, our daughter Kimmy was in the other room, 2.5 years old, hearing voices through the walls. A subtle voice, a whisper like ash on stone telling her, "This place isn't what it seems." She came in screaming, "Mommy, I heard a scary voice." Her wide eyes glistening with innocent dread, but we thought nothing of it. We reassured her and continued our life and our day. For all we knew, the old pipes squeaked, made subtle noises, a faint groan only a bubbly toddler could perceive. So we went to sleep and dreamed of roaches, none of them pleasant dreams, an army of them readying for war, their gleaming shells a relentless swarm, skittering over the edges of our fragile peace. But we woke up to the smell in the elevator of urine, feces, and weed, a sour haze seeping through the rusted cracks. Thought nothing of it. It can't be the roaches. Dreams are not real life. Good thing they fixed the elevator. Oh fuck, we're stuck again. It smells like shit. There's no way out. The lights flickered and went out amidst a cackling cockroachy laugh, a mocking echo in the suffocating dark. The imaginary friend. In the middle of the night, we hear a bang on the door, a sharp crack slicing through the stillness, Kimmy bursting with fright right out of her room, her small feet pattering like frantic raindrops. I get my wife up and we ask what is wrong, our voices hushed in the dim glow of the hallway. Kimmy says the roach is talking to her, its voice a rasp, like dry leaves in a gutter. It's not the way things should be, she whispers, her eyes wide, reflecting the moon's pale stare. Giving her warnings and threats veiled in childlike jargon, words that slither, cold and sharp, into her tender mind, the worst feelings she felt, a knot of dread in her chest, a fear of creepers and crawlers, shadows that scuttle in the dark. We tuck her in at night and walk away, blankets pulled tight like a shield against the unknown, as if we would tuck in our problems and lock them away, sealed behind the door, out of sight, out of mind. We shouldn't have ignored, for as soon as we left, the roach came to the surface, its gleaming shell a glint in the night, and told Kimmy of all the nasty things roaches want to do to parents like hers, its voice a hiss of malice, a promise of ruin wrapped in a whisper. But the night passed, and the nightmares gave way to pleasant dreams, and then the new day, in which the memory of that bitter roach faded far away, like mist burned off by the morning sun. But each night the conversations continued, a secret dialogue beneath the hum of the house, and Kimmy viewed the roach as just a new kind of friend, the angry kind, but a new friend no less, her laughter mingling with its low, chittering hum. Reading online reviews. And then Leo and Angela started to read reviews of the apartment online that they had just moved into. A digital deluge, their curiosity freed. They laughed and they scoffed, with gleeful disdain at the rants they perused, at the ridiculous things that they read, knowing in their hearts these Karens were mad, their tales overblown, that these Karens were overreacting, but it was instead a bitter plea, a frantic wail from souls forlorn, to escape a hellscape apartment complex, bitter masters tightly gripping on reins, roaches everywhere, a skittering curse no tenant could bear. Management doesn't even care. Rent doubles every night, a greedy spiral, a thief in the glare. They'll trap you and intimidate you. You can't fucking leave. A management useless. No hope or reprieve. Leo and Angela laughed as they read, their mirth a shield, their doubts agreed, for none of it could true. These lies must be all in their heads, and so they slept all night dreaming, yet shadows crept where their laughter had been, of roaches and leaky pipes, a scuttle and drip in the dark unseen, broken elevators and being stuck without light, the beginning of the end, a quiet surrender to encroaching blight, quietly into that good night. Rent hikes, and the very next day, Leo kicked off his shoes, the dust of labor clinging to his soles, after coming home from a long day of manual labor, his back a map of strain, his hands raw with effort. Looked up toward the ceiling where shadows pooled, and heard a knock on the door, a sharp rap like a gavel. A note slipped right under of some changes to come, and a serpent through the crack, its words a bitter sting. What he saw disturbed him. His heart skipped 3 beats all at once, a drumbeat of dread in his chest. They told him they were going to raise their rates specifically because they had some envy for those prices of Washington, D.C., when a distant glitter, a cruel mirage. The rent is going up 250%, and there's nothing they could do about it, a number so stark it mocked his weary bones. So the very next day to the office, Leo went, his steps heavy, his jaw set tight. He wanted someone to complain to and some human to vent, a face to meet his fury. but when he arrived was met with all cold shoulders, eyes like flint, mouths a thin line of indifference. "Take it or leave it, we need our rent," they sneered, a chorus of greed, their voices a wall. "Our money-grubbing pockets are valued more than inflation," they mocked, their laughter a hollow echo. "Our excuses are bullshit, but you fight us in vain, for our Lord and God, Robert Bob Doran, needs more money and miscreants, that we give him each night in the dark of his dreams. For he dreams of money from the rent that we take, a gluttonous feast, a hoard without end. Go back to your room, this ain't no mistake." They spat, their words a dismissal, a door slammed shut, the move-out attempt. And so after a few weeks of trying to move out, their spirits frayed, their hope worn thin, they counted the cost, they measured their wrath. For Leo and Angela sat together on the couch, its cushions sagging under the weight of their doubt, wondering if it was worth it. With all the expenses piling like unpaid bills, was there more to gain or to lose in this gamble with their future? For they thought of the roaches skittering in the dark and all the leaky pipes, weeping like their dreams, the broken promises sharp as shattered glass, and the outrageous rent hikes, a thief in the night. No need to escape, they told themselves. It will be fine, a mantra of denial. All apartments are way overpriced, a universal trap, making moving too expensive, a cage of convenience. But they were really caught in a corporate liar's web, Bob Doran himself, a puppeteer of greed, his fuckery a tangled snare, sticky stuff to the very end, binding them tight. For in Leo's head a fantasy took root of buying some guns, a symbol of defiance, moving out to the country where the air is free and having some sons, a legacy unbound somewhere down south, away from the bitter grip of these ruthless corporate thugs, their shadows long. But fuck it, he said, his voice a weary sigh, and fell back in the dark, the couch a temporary grave, into sleep of forgetting, a surrender to the night. Let's sign the lease again this month, a pact with the devil. What else could go wrong? A question laced with dread. For another year we'll stay, chained by inertia. And in her room, Kimmy kept talking to her friend, the roach a confidant in her child's world, laughing at the threats like jokes, her innocence a shield, hilariously as she bounced like a monkey on the bed, her laughter a stark contrast to the gloom outside. The roach army reigns, and then little Kimmy Bunny hopped into the room, her pigtails bouncing, her eyes wide with a child's wild gleam. "Mommy, Daddy, they're coming so soon. Mr. Skidder and his friends are training by that kind office lately," she chirped, her voice a frantic trill. Leo shrugged, his patience worn thin as old carpet, and would not have this nonsense, not today at all. He sighed, a deep rumble from his chest, and walked off, his boots scuffing the floor, and went straight to walk in the halls, not noticing the guy taking a piss in the elevator, a sour stream pooling at his feet, the air thick with neglect, and the group taking turns defecating on the stairwell, their laughter a vile chorus, a symphony of decay. Fun times had by all in this apartment, a carnival of filth, a parade of the damned, but the most fun of all was had by those under the ground, the roach army getting ready, their mandibles clicking in rhythm, brewing their force, a chitinous horde in the dark. Their time was near before they would all be unleashed. Nothing could stop their power, a tide of tiny terrors. They would roam the grounds like beasts, armor-plated and angry that their party was cut short, their feast interrupted, their wrath and their rage consumed their little bug brains as they crawled underground like militants in training, their legs a synchronized march, a legion beneath the floorboards. The office lady stood at their command, her suit crisp, her smile a razor's edge, gave an inspiring speech about how to fuck over lives. Her voice, a velvet glove over iron, said that instead of insecticide, staff would place crumbs and fun treats in disguise, a banquet for the beasts, a lure for the swarm, a festering force, a horrible smell, a miasma rising from the cracks, choking the air. And somewhere Bob Dran sat back in his mansion's gilded cocoon and basked in its swell, the chaos a symphony to his ears, watching from a TV, the screen a window to his empire of rot, as he urged those roaches on, his laughter a low, satisfied hum. Pictures of Richard Nixon and Warren Buffett hung tightly to his walls, icons of cunning and greed, their eyes following his every move. He laughed a good laugh, a sound like coins clinking in a vault, as his little friends learned to crawl over the residents' faces while growing so large in the darkness, their shadows stretching, their forms swelling with menace, a festering pain that nothing could stop or measure, an endless tide, a plague reborn each night, domestic violence. And Leo and Angela had to sleep in the living room, their makeshift bed a tangle of blankets on the sagging couch, because just in the other apartment, domestic violence had come alive, a nightly opera of rage. Aaron and Paul, the couple next door, liked to slap each other up, their blows a grim percussion, and one of them usually ended up on the floor, in tears or just a puddle of blood, the carpet stained with their strife. Furniture moving, the loudest of sounds, chairs scraping like claws, tables thudding like fists, screams and the yells, a cacophony of pain. Bro, you fucked up for the last time. You're weird. Don't get the police involved. I care more about your son than you do. Censored word that starts with N. You fucked up bad and you know when. Let me slap you up or I'll make you regret. Don't you ever forget who owns you, my bitch. Don't you ever go back to that lame-ass Mitch. And that night, Leo and Angela heard a loud knock at the door, a fist like thunder rattling the frame. The cops showed up and said, "Sir, we're here to respond to a domestic disturbance." Their badges glinting in the dim hallway light. And Leo pointed to the door, his hand trembling, said, "Nah, that ain't us. It's the other guys just down the hall. They make such a ruckus. Are you listening at all?" But the cops, deaf to reason, cuffed Leo's wrists. And then the cops put Leo in a jail cell where he waited for the next 2 nights. The cold bars, a stark contrast to his warm home. As I'm sure you know, his job didn't like that very much. His boss's voice, a distant echo of disapproval. But he wept and he cried for the bitter mistake, the chaos ensuing all over Keswick's place, a tempest of injustice and noise. The emergency, and one night Angela awoke with a start, a coughing little bell. She wasn't okay. Her fragile gasps a whisper in the gloom, and they all knew it was all the weed smoking that turned the room foggy from the other residents with open windows, a drifting haze invading like a silent plague. All over their apartments, a shroud of carelessness. And so they called the nurse, who told them to check a few things, her voice a steady anchor in the rising dread. "Oh my God," the nurse said to Angela. "Right now, you gotta call 911, and Angela couldn't hold back the tears, like a good mother should. She was bawling her eyes out, her cries a torrent, her love a breaking dam. So Leo dialed the number, his hands unsteady, his words a fragile bridge. The ambulance showed up, its sirens cutting through the night's thick veil where the baby lay as they took her to hospital, brain high as a kite for a baby, and lungs blacker than stone, a tender soul trapped in a toxic drift. There had to be a way out. Leo promised the apartment would atone, his anger a spark, his will a forged steel, so he drafted up an angry email and they responded as so, their reply a hollow echo, a barrier of denial. "Good morning, dear tenant, your cries we've received. Yet again you complain, and we're mildly aggrieved. We're sorry, so sorry, with sincerity grand. for the smoke that's invaded your baby's small land. Alas, we can't sleuth in the dark of the night, our team's tucked in bed, out of mind, out of sight. A notice will post, a vague little plea to catch the rogue smoker. Good luck, maybe 3. Our service team's sharp, they'll sniff in the sun, but at dusk they're off. Sorry, done is done. We've grilled your neighbors, no culprits in view. Unit 206, newborns don't smoke, who knew? We'll lean on your peers to tattle and squeal, for we're far too busy to fix this ordeal. Want to escape? A new unit's your call, but the price jumps high, $18.50, that's all. New applicants, you'll be with wallets to drain, 6 pay stubs we need, or it's all down the lane. Oh, and your lease, TikTok time's running thin, $2,000 and change, or you're month to month in. We're working on it at our leisurely rate, while smoke curls around your unfortunate fate. So please, dear tenant, just bear with our flair. For your health's not our gold, rent's the true affair, drug deal of roaches, and in the parking lot late at night there pulled up some hoodlums, tires screeching under a moonless sky, shadows spilling from a battered van, guns firing in the air, screaming like jihadis of a far different creed, a wild cacophony splitting the silence of the night. But wait, these weren't humans, they weren't people at all. They were roaches, giant ones rolling right into the complex, their armored shells gleaming, mandibles clicking in ruthless rhythm. The party that had started, they wanted to join it, for they meant business and they had to strike a deal, a pact forged in the flickering glow of streetlights. So they brought out by the truckload some mountains of weed, pungent heaps piled high as sin. The deal they would make would be for the history books, a legend whispered in the cracks of crumbling walls. The roaches would be happy, the party would ensue, antennas flopping everywhere, a frenzied dance of chaos. While Keswick management watched, their eyes glinting with greed, forget their sorry excuses, they were urging them on to tear up the place, to join in the song, a hymn of destruction, a revelry of ruin. The roaches ran wild in their passionate rowdiness that would never be forgotten, etched in the scars of the asphalt. Once a roach, a rabble-rouser, the deal ensued in the parking lot, exchanging the cash and then lighting it up, because why not? There was enough roach weed to go around, its acrid smoke curling like a dragon's breath. And their anger exploded, their wrath would be complete, unleashed on the populace, part of Bob's plan to increase his profit margin, the great infestations of Keswick in 2025, a plague scripted in boardrooms. For there is no better CEO than one deaf, dumb, and blind to charity and its swell, his heart a vault, his soul a ledger. In a manner of speaking, he rolls in his cash, a king on a throne of glittering coins, leaves the rest of us weeping, our tears pooling in the cracks of a broken complex. The roach deal awry, and the roach deal went awry, a pact unraveled in the dead of night. The roaches started yelling, their chitinous shrieks piercing the air, and people started yelling, their voices a cacophony of fear. Some residents opened their windows and screamed as they saw the roaches so foul, monstrous shadows skittering below. But the roaches urged them to stay inside, their mandibles clicking in a desperate plea, and not make a sound, a futile command in the rising storm. But nothing could stop them from freaking out, for giant roaches weren't supposed to be here, their presence a nightmare, a breach of nature's law, sounded like some weird experimentation, a lab-born horror that no one could stop, a growing of violence, a tempest brewing in the dark. The riot then ensued, all of the residents in a super smash mood, a frenzy of defiance, swinging their hammers and kitchen knives too, a makeshift militia against the chitinous tide. But suddenly they got a hold of the weed, started smoking with the roaches, a surreal truce in a haze of green, as management watched with glee, their eyes glinting like coins. Aaron was there too and started slapping up roaches, his fists a blur, his rage a wildfire, but the roaches talked to him like a father. their voices a low hum, wise and stern. Be nice and don't hit people, you vicious little pest. A lesson in civility from the least expected source. So that day, Aaron learned some manners from the roaches, a strange enlightenment in the midst of madness. They would come for their brethren, small but scurrying through the kitchens of the apartment complex that now was doomed to die, a crumbling fortress, its fate sealed in smoke, a ring of power, but a ring of smoke of the weed they smoke over my body. When I die, a eulogy in haze, a final defiant breath. We're all so high, even as I write this, a bottle of Corona in the left hand and a pen in the right. The world a blur, the words a lifeline. I will bring justice to this place, even if it keeps me up all night. For verses, ironically, are the power over all, a desperate Keswick management. Have no power against it at all, for try they possibly will with a lawsuit or two, but satire is protected speech, and the judge and jury won't be in the mood, their gavels unmoved by hollow threats. So if you're reading this, management, would you kindly fuck off, go find another job before it takes you right off the cliff of your sanity or justice through lies, for in this book will live forever the truths you denied. After credit scene. And Leo lowered his head in shame, his steps heavy, his spirit worn, as he walked home from work, taking the stairs, cold and accusing, and opened the door and wept on the couch, its fabric frayed, a witness to his despair. For he had lost his job, and today was eviction day, a cruel twist in a life already bent. The roaches arrived, their chitinous forms a tide, and they pried Belle from her crib, her tiny hands clutching at air, threw them all out onto the street, where the cold wind blew, a merciless gust, but they knew they could still get to their car, a last refuge in the gathering storm. So they made a bolt, hearts pounding, and Leo walked around the parking lot. It was nowhere to be found, his hope a flickering flame in the dark. But somewhere in the distance there roared a voice of horror from a tow truck that was clearly labeled FT, a towing, its lights a predatory gleam. "That's my car," yelled Leo, his voice cracking. "Not anymore, motherfucker." The driver sneered, a cruel laugh echoing in the night. And Leo took out his notebook, its pages a sanctuary, a weapon, and remembered not to drink and write. But he ignored the warning and started publishing the book online, a defiant act, a spark against the void. For he would have to retrieve his car, but there would be strife, and the fight was far from over. The holy war had begun, a battle cry in the silence of his heart. And not far away, in the apartment's shadowed heart, Bob sat at his desk, loving his life and getting all the rest. A king in his crumbling castle. He called in his lawyer saying, "They just posted this book online. I'm fucked. I'm screwed. Please, what can be done?" His voice a tremor, his empire at risk. And the lawyer opened his mouth slowly in a comforting tone. "This isn't the end, Bob. At the end of the tunnel, there's hope." A festering smile somewhere under his hood, a serpent's promise in a suit. The lawyer walked the office, thinking and planning, his steps a measured dance of deceit. "Look, I'm ruined," said Bob. "This is clearly the end. I have to sue these motherfuckers. I have to make them pay. Now the whole world knows about me. I'm dead as a doornail. I'm like a roach in a trap, a rat in a hotel." And the lawyer interrupted, "But not like a cat, for they have 9 lives, and I'm afraid yours seems up. Sit back and relax, and I'll help you. Art speaks 1,000,000 words, and you see, it will heal. Those broken, those bruised, who you put through hell, for love of worthless dollars won't take you too far." And Bob turned in shock as his lawyer took off his mask. This wasn't his lawyer, but the Duke in disguise. A figure of legend, a ghost of rebellion. for Bob could not believe what was right in front of his eyes. The Duke said, "My holy war is going exactly as planned, for it wasn't just Berkshire who destroyed what was good, for you're just a side quest, but the target's in view, Warren Buffett and his billions, not a kingdom, just a molehill, for the darkness will consume you and take you nowhere at all, wielding your power, exploiting those who have no other choice. But I, Tiny Tim, am forever their voice." Bob stumbled out, not believing what he heard. It couldn't be true. Tiny Tim was long dead, a specter from a forgotten tale. But in the streets, the poems spread, a rebellion born from what the Duke said, a whisper growing into a roar.